Hello, I'm Pat Frank. I'm Clerk of the Court and Comptroller for Hillsborough County, and you're watching Tampa Bay Community Network.
Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and this is Spotlight on Government. The lady who is coming on the show with me today, and we're going to get to talk to, actually came on the show probably as much as 15 years ago and several times since when she was a county commissioner. Today, she's Clerk of Courts for Hillsborough County. Pat Frank, what a wonderful time to have you on the show.
Oh, it's nice to be here, Bill. We waited a long time for this, huh?
Yes, you know, I've tried to get you on a couple times, but the schedules never quite fit when we were taping and when you could be here because your office is extremely busy.
It's not a position, it's a job. And you have to be at the job.
You know, people think of Clerk of Courts, and many of them in their mind are thinking Andy Mayberry's show where the guy stood there and swore people in and that. And that's the bailiff. What is the Clerk of Courts?
Well, let me start out by saying I'm not just the Clerk of the Courts. I'm also the Comptroller for Hillsborough County. So I have two huge jobs. And so we'll have to talk about a little bit of both of them.
I knew you handled money or were in charge of some things, but I didn't realize that you were actually the Comptroller.
I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the county.
I should have known that.
How much time do we have?
30 minutes.
It's going to be hard.
You can have it all.
Well, Clerk of the Courts is where the majority of my employees work. I have now about 728 employees. When I started out, I had 941.
Really?
Yeah, altogether.
Even with the increasing population, you've decreased the number in the office. And
because I've had budget cuts every year since 2009, and that was right when the Depression started hitting, we've had cuts. And over that span of some 6 to 7 years now, my budget has been cut by 20%. And correspondingly, I've reduced the staff by 20%. So it's been a real test to try to figure out how to have increasing in cases because the population of the county grows, but do the business with less personnel. And I'm very happy to say that one of the things that we've done, and it's taken 6 years to do, it's not something that you just snap your fingers at. We've automated the office so that now paper is gone. I could take you down and show you empty shelves galore where we've just cleaned out the paper.
Don't show my wife that, she'll fill them.
Well, don't look at my closet at home. But we've had to do that to survive because actually the warehouse was just exploding, and we still have millions of files out there which we cannot destroy because we have retention requirements. Some files have to be kept as long as 75 years.
75 years?
Yes, and I have a day book, which there was an article in the paper about it, that goes back to 1837. And it's fascinating to look at this. It's a diary, handwritten, of the activities of the clerk at that time when Tampa had a population of about 500 people.
Wow.
And it talks about the Indians and slavery and Fort Brooke, which was the original Tampa. And it's fascinating. And what I'm doing is the History Museum has agreed that they'll display the book in a case that will protect it. And I am automating all of the information, digitizing it, and putting it in a fashion so that you can turn page by page on our website and read it. So this is going to be interesting.
This would be great for the history buffs and even for teachers who want to show the students what it was like that many years back.
Absolutely. And how slavery wove into the picture. How I didn't realize that Indians had slaves.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes. That you got captured in battle and
Yep.
you did your thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But anyhow, we have millions of documents that we have digitized. And the last stage that we have will be completed by the end of June. And that will be for the public to have access to all the records. We digitized it for all of our judicial partners, which means the courts, all the judges, the state attorney, the public defender, the sheriff's office, whatever institution works with the courts. And they had the immediate access to the information because they got the full document. Nothing was redacted. Redacted means sort of covered over so
Right.
you can't read it, because there's some things that we can't disclose. And so now we're down to the point where when we go to the general public having access, it's a little trickier because we now have to redact that information before that last stage takes place. Some clerks are using software to do that. I did not feel comfortable with that because the software that's on the market only takes care of elementary things like your Social Security card, your bank statement. It doesn't reflect the things which we're required to redact, which are some 22 to 24 elements with subsections of redaction. And there are things that involve criminal investigations, rape, sensitive nature information. I don't want any of that out in the public way.
And I agree with you completely. I think transparency is important, but I think there's also, you have to balance that with privacy.
Exactly.
And you're doing, with that, I think you're right on the right track.
I'd rather...
If anybody cares what I think.
Well, we could do it with a snap of a finger if we just did the elementary things, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be sure that we're sensitive to the private rights of individuals.
You had a really major, maybe as far back, time goes by so quick. I'm thinking sometime in the last 7 or 8 years, you had a huge computer project that you started. Is this part of it?
It is. It took us a while to determine what system we would use. And we really wanted to have some compatibility with other clerks because we wanted to have the majority of the people in the state on the same system. So we met with other clerks, we analyzed the same systems, and most of the large counties are using the system that we have, which is made by Tyler Technology, and it's called Odyssey. And so that's very good because it allows attorneys who are practicing in different circuits to use the same system. And Odyssey has been good, but you can't take a system off the shelf and have it interface with the court system where you have 62 judges as we have, and you have administrative orders. Is that how many we have? Mm-hmm. And we have administrative orders which the chief judge decides how and what a court will be. They can add extra courts if they want to, and they can require certain forms. And so all of this has to be tailor-made to the needs of the particular circuit you're in. I'm very lucky because I'm the total clerk for the total circuit. Some clerks are in multiple circuits. You have multiple circuits with multiple clerks. It's a mess. Really? Yeah, it is a mess.
Is that because they're smaller counties and each county has it, but the circuit makes up?
Yes, and that creates a problem for people who are dealing with that lack of compatibility. But it's the way Florida has grown. I'm reminded from the day book and the History Museum that, we were 12 counties originally in Hillsborough County.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And they consolidated rather than split.
Yes.
Usually that's, Usually it's one big area and then it's split.
And we're lucky in Hillsborough County because we have 3 cities. In Pinellas, I think they have 27 cities. So I think the way that Hillsborough has developed has made living a little bit easier. I know the taxpayers may disagree, but you know, you don't have overlapping taxes at least.
I like it. Dayton, Ohio had 9 different school systems surrounding them. And I mean, the redundancy and the cost of doing that was just outrageous.
Yes.
But none wanted to give up their little...
I know, that's a hard thing. Well, anyhow, going back to the difficulty of trying to turn everything into a change mode, first you have to get the employees to buy into it, you know? And some...
Can't fire everybody, right?
No, some employees retired. They actually said, I don't want to do this. And even some clerks throughout the state. I think we had the largest amount of clerks who decided not to run for re-election of any time in the history.
Didn't want to face that challenge.
I think there were about 24 clerks out of 67. So we took it on, and it's been a challenge, but it's working out beautifully. And we have a partnership with our judges. We have a very good relationship. And the public defender and the state attorney and the sheriff, we all work together. And I try to accommodate their needs, but with the restricted funding that I have, sometimes I can't do things that are necessary to happen. But it's working quite well. And the warehouse still has a lot of things that are retained there, a lot of paper. I'd like to digitize all of that and have it retained digitally, but I can't afford it because of the cuts that I've had made. That requires extra personnel to do that.
And so we pay for the storage, and I assume that has to be hermetically controlled storage.
Well, no. As a matter of fact, the roof leaks in the building.
Oh no!
We're having problems right now, and I've asked for them to repair it. They're working on that, but. You know, try to repair a roof leak. You may repair it in one place, but you know, leaks travel. And so I don't know whether this will be satisfactory. The roof has not been replaced in years, and we really need that done. Because if we ever had more than a Hurricane 3, the roof would blow away. And then those papers would be destroyed before we have the opportunity to image them.
Yeah, it's really a shame. Defense Contract Agency, DCASA, in Dayton had this big storage facility, and it went to rack and ruin. It got a few leaks here, little leaks there, and they lost tons of information. And they all at the end said, well, I guess we didn't need it anyway, and just moved on. But
well, you can't do that
if
with
it's that
court
important,
cases.
It ought to be protected.
Because you still have felony cases that have to be kept for a long time, and people have appeals. People on death row, you know, are
what has to be kept for 75 years?
Some felony cases,
really?
And also some of the juvenile adoption cases have to be kept perpetually. So there are some that just run a gamut.
Wow. Let's talk about the courts themselves. I think an awful lot of people really don't understand the courts, the levels of the courts, the way the courts are set up, and you're in a perfect position to know that. How are the courts set up in Hillsborough County?
Well, it used to be that there were 5 levels, and now we have 3 levels. You have a county court, you have the circuit courts, and then you have your appellate courts. The appellate courts cover more than Hillsborough County. They reach down to Naples and places like that.
Oh, okay.
But nonetheless, we fall within that jurisdiction of the 2nd District Court of Appeal. The county court is the lower court, the lowest court, and that's where you have your misdemeanors, your traffic violations, your small claims, anything that's of less than $15,000 is heard in a county court. Then it steps up to the circuit court if it passes beyond that threshold. And then the circuit court is, both of the courts, the county courts and the circuit courts, are divided into two parts. One is civil actions, which means it's property damage or disputes about money. The other is criminal, which obviously is somebody's been injured in one way or another. And so there are divisions within the circuit and within the county courts. I don't know if that's simple enough.
No, that gives us a feeling for it. But and how many judges did you say there were
62.
Involved in this whole?
62.
And there's a chief justice or
Yes,
chief judge?
Chief judge. That's Judge Ficarota, Ron Ficarota.
Let me ask you a question about traffic court.
Okay.
Most of us, well, maybe not most of us, but many of us run afoul of traffic court occasionally. And I did that. And by the way, at the very end, I proved I was not guilty and was told I wasn't guilty and was able to walk away. But it cost me 3 days to do that. Mm-hmm. I had to go down to Brandon and I had to sign in that I wanted a court date. And then I went down for that court date and the judge said, "Are you pleading guilty or innocent?" And I said, "I'm pleading innocent." He said, "Okay, then we'll set a court date." So I went down on that third time and I had to pay for parking and travel and everything. And finally I proved that I wasn't guilty. But while I sat there waiting for my turn, they took all the people who had attorneys first and then me, instead of taking us alphabetically or in date of infraction or whatever. Can you give me a reason why we have to go through all that, or is there a way that that could be streamlined?
Well, I'm certainly working on that, and I understand the frustration that people have. And traffic is a huge part of our business. We have hundreds of thousands of people who have traffic violations. Let me tell you what my goal is, and it's involving the electronic process. I want you to be able to do this electronically.
It seemed to me reasonable.
And for those who don't have the electronic devices, we have to have kiosks in libraries or places that are accessible to neighborhoods.
Good idea.
And one of the reasons that you have to go down right now is because you may just have gotten that one ticket, but we have many people who say, well, let me just pay the ticket and be done with it. And we can't do that, because what we have to do is we have to go back and wash their record and see, was that the only ticket? And we frequently find that they've got a list of tickets. We can't excuse them for paying one ticket when they have the balance still due. So for that reason, it takes extra time to have to process all of that. Now, to have to go down is what bothers me.
Yeah.
We don't want to do that. Right now, what I've done is, at least what I've done is I've consolidated customer service into one place, because we had multiple offices within the courthouse, multiple offices outside the courthouse, and now we have customer service, at least for the ones that are within the courthouse. It's in one place, and it's on the first floor of the Edgecombe building. And you go down there and you get a ticket, and you can see how long it's going to take you in the line. If you don't want to wait, you don't have to wait. What I'm trying to do
That's
is...
if you're pleading guilty?
Or well, you may just want to pay the ticket.
Yeah, okay.
But I want to do that from home. I want to be able, for you to be able to access that information from home, to see if I have to come down to set a court date, which I hope we can do from your home. But if we can't do that and you have to come down, how long am I going to have a wait to come down? Where can I do it faster? Can I do it?
Like the hospital waiting rooms now will tell you you have a 20-minute delay or whatever.
Can I do it better out at Brandon? Do they have less of a line out there, or do I have to go down to the courthouse downtown? There are some things we can't avoid right now because we don't have the software set up to do this. But we're working on that, and that's going to be a very important part of the whole thing because traffic is huge. We also want AMSCOT to be able to accept tickets because we want to give them access to be able to go back and trace whether they have other tickets that have to be paid at the same time that they could take care of it. And an AMSCOT is everywhere. Now, admittedly, that's $2.50. I think that's what they're charging now. But that's better than you're going downtown and paying,
oh, yeah.
paying
if
for
I'm going to pay it.
Yeah, if you have to pay it. But my hope is that you aren't going to have to go anywhere. You can do it at home, unless it's a complex situation. And, you know, then there are going to be exceptions to that rule. But we're working on that, and we're working on it with our website, which we're redesigning. And we want to make the website visible on your smartphone better than it is. So we're doing a number of things.
Everybody's carrying a phone anymore.
Yeah, it's taking us time to do all this stuff. This just doesn't happen at the snap of a finger.
Well, when you've lost 200 employees, that's also something.
And we're getting cut again. I heard it just today. We're going to have another cut. We will know on Monday exactly how much. But the estimate is our office will be cut another $1 million, which could mean
Where do these cuts come from? The county commissioners or from the legislature?
From the legislature makes the decision on how much we get. Let me explain what happens. We don't rely upon tax dollars. We rely upon the collection of fines, fees, and costs. We get a small charge out of those services. It doesn't really cover the entire cost of our operation. And so we request from the legislature that we be allowed to keep some of the money that we collect. In Hillsborough County, can you believe that this last year I collected $200 million?
Really?
Yes. And you know how much I was allowed to keep? $27 million.
Where does the rest of it go?
It went to general revenue, and it went to buckets that the legislature has said they want this money spent on, like the Dory Schlossberg seatbelt program, whatever it is, or a spinal cord injury place, or maybe something that is less concerned with even safety, you know. It's 50 cents here, 50 cents there, $1 here, $1 there, and before you know it,
it's real money.
It's eaten up. But however, the balance goes into general revenue. And instead of the legislature saying, look, the courts are the ones who are collecting this money, they deserve to have their funding appropriate so that they can do it appropriately and do the service, let them take their money first. And then we'll decide what buckets we want to spend the money on and what priorities are second. They are not doing that. We had been promised that there would be a program for us that would give us a constant source of funding and that it would be along this line. That never came out of the legislature.
Really?
This year. And you know, all we're doing is postponing the inevitable. There's going to come to a point where we're going to have to say, we can't keep the doors open. Now, hopefully, we're going to be able to do a lot automatically, you know, but we're still going to have certain things
Sure.
that take place in the courtroom. We have clerks who are in the courtroom. Are we going to do away with that? Are we going to do away with the technical documentation of all that information that went on? You know,
I would compliment you, by the way, on one of your employees. I called about getting a wedding license for a friend of mine, and she was so nice, very pleasant, explaining everything I needed, and I really appreciate that. And the fact also is I didn't have to wait a long time to get her on the line.
That's good.
She came on pretty fast.
Well, you know, people are happier in the passport and the marriage area than they are in traffic because...
In fact, I had wanted to have you on, as I'd said before, and I mentioned it to her, and she said, well, I'll put you through the right person.
That's good. Well, you know, it's a tough job because most people are very courteous to our employees, and the employees, I hope, are courteous in return. But we do have situations where people get irritated with us because they've got stress in their life.
Oh, yes.
And you know, half the people who come out of a courtroom are unhappy because they lost.
That's right.
And so we can't have everybody happy, you know, and our challenge is to still keep the morale of the office employees up, which bothers me a lot. If we have to face cuts, I can tell you it's going to be terrible. And I don't want to do that. I'm trying to think of all alternatives that I can think of. But I think the legislature has got to recognize this has to be a priority.
If you had one thing that you'd really like to do in the next 5 years, what would it be? I've only got about 3 minutes left.
Get reelected. Because
well, assuming if you didn't have that, you probably wouldn't be able to do this. But what would you like to see? What one thing do you think will make the biggest difference?
In the clerk's office?
In the clerk's office.
Well, I think we have to have the adequate funding for our employees who are doing a magnificent job. I want them to be rewarded. They've been sacrificing for 6 years now, and it's not fair. It's not fair.
So it's our county legislators that
Yes.
have the purse strings that we
Yes.
need to get with them if
Yes.
we want to have
Yes.
all these good things happening in the
Yes.
clerk's office.
Yes. I mean, I see some of our legislative delegation doing things like wanting to get money for manatee viewing. Well, I love manatees.
I do too.
But you know,
But they're only there for a couple months a year.
well,
You're there all year.
we're there to keep a system going that creates a civilized society, and you know, it's vital.
You know, actually, we never did get to talk, and we don't really have much time to do it, about the comptroller side of your job.
Comptroller is a huge side because we handle all of the finances of the county. We pay checks, we pay their electric bills, we pay their invoices.
Do you get separate money for that, or is it
Yes,
all just?
the county does
Okay.
give us money for that. The county allows us to keep money from the recording of documents. We have a certain percentage that we're allowed to keep out of that, and we are very cautious about not overspending. We don't increase our budget because we know the sensitivity, and we do all the inventory for the county. I was just looking at something like $5 billion worth of inventory, and I think we inventoried every item, every desk, every computer, 441 million last year. And we pay the payroll for employees. Some 6,600 employees are paid every 2 weeks, and we've never missed a pay period.
Out of your 700 employees? That same group that we talked about at the beginning, they're all covering all of this?
Yes, that's right.
Wow.
They're all covering it. And we also do the CAFR report, which is the financial report for the county. And we've done it, and I asked for a rating from Standard & Poor's when I first came into the clerk's office. I said, how are we doing this? Are we doing this well? And I was worried. I didn't know.
And they said?
We got a AAA rating.
And on that, Pat Frank, I've got to close her down.
Thank
what
you.
a pleasure.
Well,
you know,
thank you.
over the years, 15 years, you've been coming back and forth, and I've appreciated it.
Wearing different hats.
Right, wearing different hats. I'm Bill Hodges. This is Spotlight on Government. You're unique, you're special, you're great. Tell yourself so often because you are, you know, and we'll see you on the next Spotlight on Government. Again, Pat, thanks for being here and being with us.
Thank you, Bill, for letting me talk about my favorite subject. Thank you.